What is your most memorable story of petty revenge? I have a friend whose pumpkin/fall display at the end of his driveway would be run over by the neighborhood jerk. Happened every year. My friend decided to put a stop to it. He withdrew money from his savings account so he would have enough to buy the largest pumpkin he could find, along with several large bags of Quikrete. Filled that puppy up and made a real pretty display. The jerk broke the axle of his shoddy car when he hit that pumpkin. Could not drive away. My friend had his car towed away, too. You know, it's always funny when vandals like this go to the police, too, and they complain like, I went to vandalize his yard and he broke my car. My coworker sometimes throws out her lunch in the garbage can at my desk instead of her own, because she claims that she can't stand the smell of old ketchup that's been sitting out for a couple hours. I've asked her several times to stop, but she will then just wait until I get up to go to the bathroom and do it, and hide my garbage can under my desk so she thinks I won't see it. Every time she does it, I wait until she goes to the bathroom, take out the little plastic container that she had ketchup in, and put it way in the back of her bottom desk drawer. There's 6 in there now. The oldest is over a month old. So far, she hasn't noticed the smell. Gonna keep doing it and see how long it takes her to notice. You know, it's not very often that people post stories that are like ongoing when they tell it, and this story was posted 3 years ago, so I really have to wonder how that turned out. I caught my flatmate telling lies about me to some mutual friends. I made plans to move out the next month. In the meantime, she went out of town for a week, and left her car parked in its usual spot in the parking lot. I threw birdseed on it every morning and evening, so when she came home, the birds wouldn't leave her car alone. Yeah, that probably included a whole lot of bird poop all over it, too. I used to manage a Starbucks when one of my baristas asked a guy his name, and he just flipped out, belittling her, calling her stupid, and didn't give a name. Anyway, I take over the handoff drinks, and place his drink just on the handoff with no words. I'll add, it was a busy store with a lot of people waiting. I just kept putting drinks out for about 10 to 15 minutes, and the douchebag walks up and picks up his drink that's now lukewarm and goes, "Is this mine?" I just respond with, "I don't know, it doesn't have a name on it." I mean, this is relatively tame, but isn't it like a well-known thing that you should never insult the people who are preparing your food because you never know what they might do to it? My college roommate had a bad habit of leaving her things in piles on our bathroom floor until there was almost no space to walk to the bath or toilet. Not just clothes, but change, jewelry, decks of playing cards, knitting needles, books, hairpins, scarves, earbud headphones, keys, etc. One day she left $40 scattered with the mess, so I put the money in one of her lesser-used bathroom drawers. Originally I put it there to protect it from our third roommate and her friends. When I came home the next day and noticed that she was cleaning the mess in an effort to find it, I decided not to tell her where the money was until our bathroom floor was spotless. Afterwards, I decided it would be too awkward to tell her the truth, so I left the money wadded up in her hamper as I'd found it on the floor. She was ecstatic when she found it on laundry day. After that, her bathroom piles never got quite as big. I'm so glad I've never had to share a bathroom with roommates before. Not me, but for my wife. When we were younger, and kind of on hard times, she took a pretty shady job at a local factory. The first 2 weeks she was there, she had her lunch stolen at least 5 or 6 times. Even open drinks. I was pretty pissed. A lot of times I would grill for her or make her lunch, and she was going hungry. One day I bought a big Gatorade and a box of those women's laxatives, both red in color. Couldn't tell the two were mixed, but we found out who the thief was. I always love how laxatives are just used as like legal poison when you want to really get back at somebody. You know, we could go pretty far and put like cyanide in their food, but that's a little bit too far, so I mean, laxatives are just a nice, safe alternative. In response to an admittedly pretty good practical joke, I hid 7 battery-powered alarm clocks in the perpetrator's room, set them to go off one by one roughly every 40 minutes between 2 and 6 a.m. Last one was hid in the ceiling. Well, I guess if you have the money to blow and you have access to the person's room, I mean, I guess that is a pretty elaborate prank to pull on somebody. My friends did some work for a guy who skipped his bill and never paid him. My friend is so petty, he did many things, such as placed fake for sale ads with too good a deal, like a nice boat for $1,000, and other numerous ads with the guy's number. Our city is big on garage sales. He posted ads like, "Moving out sale, everything must go, cheap, will be held inside the house, just walk in or ring the doorbell." Then put this guy's address on the ad. He also signed him up for numerous free gym memberships, and responded to things like car dealership ads with this guy's phone number. He did a lot more, that's just what I can remember. I don't know who I feel more sorry for. And again, it's one of those things where it's just like, it kind of sounds like it's illegal, but I mean, like, who's really gonna catch you? We were kids staying at the seaside on holiday with our family. My sister would always make a pretty sandcastle, and the next day it would have been kicked down and she'd cry. We wanted to find out who was doing it, so one day we stayed behind to spy. We watched as a bunch of jerk older boys came by and kicked her castle down, laughing smugly. So the next night we covered a big beach rock in sand and decorated it. Like clockwork, the jerks came in with their smug faces, and this time kicked a solid rock with all their might. The yowl and the look on their faces was the best revenge ever. Man, when will people realize that it's probably not a good idea to just go around breaking other people's things? There's a new truck in my apartment's parking lot, always taking up multiple spots. Always. Weird angles, close to the stairs, all over the place. No assigned parking, unfortunately. Months of this. I drive a much smaller car than that, and I'm petty and passive-aggressive. I've been waiting for my chance. A few days ago was my shot. I got home quite late, and there were 0 spots open in my lot. The big truck is double parked again, but there's just enough room on their driver's side for me to sneak in there with my little clown car. I carefully pull in, make sure not to touch anything. No damage, nothing. My passenger side mirror is half an inch from their driver's side door. I giggled to myself all the way back to my apartment and set an alarm and waited. The following morning I wake up before the alarm to a loud door slamming and stomping around. I check out my window and I see the double parking culprit walking around both vehicles, taking pictures, texting someone, taking more pictures. I'm shaking with glee. They then swallow their pride, let out a visual sigh, and climb in their passenger side, clamber over the center console, and Austin Powers 20-point turn their butts out of the spot. I've never been so proud of myself and my crappy, petty, passive-aggressive ways. Well, I mean, sometimes that's like the only way to deal with people like that. Because, I mean, when you try and approach people like that, it could just make it even worse. At my previous job, we had separate refrigerators for the different shifts. Our food was constantly being stolen or messed with. One day, my buddy and I decided to make a nice cherry cheesecake out of cooking lard. We finished it off with graham cracker crust and cut a couple slices out of it since we knew the thief wouldn't be brazen enough to take the first bite. We never found out who the thief was, but we never had to worry about anyone messing with our food ever again. You know, I'm kind of amazed at how effective some of these pranks really turn out to be. You know, I have to wonder what's going through their mind after they actually steal the food like that. Are they just like, oh man, these people just have horrible taste, I'm never stealing any of their stuff again? Or do they actually realize, oh, this was probably a deliberate act of revenge? My brother did something to annoy his then girlfriend, so she took the labels off all his canned food and tins in the cupboards. Are you opening a tin of beans, or a tin of tomato sauce, or cat food? Kinda hilarious. Oh, I think somebody heard me say cat food. Grounded yet again by my angry dad for breathing while his ball game was on, I was stuck in my bedroom, bored witless. For something to do, I flicked the light switches on and off. This was pre-mobile era, and we had to make our own fun. It was then that I discovered that this made a loud buzzing static interference on the TV in the lounge. Cue the next 5 years of petty revenge. My angry dad never figured out why we had such a bad TV signal at game time. He never connected it with me being sent to my room and flicking the light switch every few minutes, reveling as he yelled futilely at the static dancing across the TV. See, that's when you have to convince your dad that it's actually cursed when he grounds you, and maybe he should just leave you alone when the game is on. I used to work doing stucco in East Texas. One guy just never paid us, so we spent a day tearing down everything we worked on. Another time, while working for a small machine shop, a customer kept dicking us around about paying for some work we did. Was all a walk-in job, paid half up front, and would pay the rest at pickup. Well, he needed his part now, and would pay us the remainder in a month or so. So we cut his part in half, and said we'll give him the other half in a month or so. Lesson of the story, don't mess around with contractors. Geez, now I see why people really stick with contractors that they get to know well. Because both sides can really screw each other over a lot if they don't get along. I found out my then boyfriend was cheating on me, and he threw my dog across the room when we were discussing what he had done. I moved out immediately, more for hurting my dog than anything. So as I was moving out, I took his entire porn collection and microwaved them one by one. It only takes 3 seconds each. Took me about an hour to go through them all. I put them back in the case, then back where they belonged. Not sure if the microwave was still usable, didn't really care. He was also the manager at a restaurant and would bring home tons of food. They had really nice coolers that the food came in, so I called the GM and explained that I had moved out, and that I wanted to return the boxes. He lost his job. Then I was getting collection calls for him. Gave him the new girl's work and personal phone number so they could find him. Don't mess with my dogs. You know, this video is just full of new ideas if anyone's looking to get revenge on somebody right now. I used to go to this arcade and play a certain basketball game. I was climbing the all-time wins leaderboard in said game. I was very close behind number 1, when one day my account vanishes. None of the other accounts do, and then I learned that somehow the number 1 wins player, who works there, had a hand in it. I waited until he played another game and watched as he put in the code for his initials and account. So then I waited 30 minutes when he was done, logged into his account on that machine, and tanked a game pretty hard. When I was done, his record dropped to 210 wins to 1 loss. Unfortunately, I didn't see his reaction, but I got way too much vengeance satisfaction from it. You know, I've been told many times throughout my life to, get a life, you play too many video games. But if you're working at an arcade, and you are trying to sabotage anyone from trying to beat your high scores at the arcade, you probably need to get a life. Back in the late 90s, I worked at Best Buy, and one Saturday a month we had to come in 3 hours before the store opened, so 7 a.m., for a mandatory all-store meeting when we would watch the video from corporate, give out Employee of the Month awards, go over department goals, and the like. Well, there was a guy in our department, James, who was a pretty crappy worker, and showed up to the meeting an hour late, and the manager took him aside and fired him. Well, apparently the manager didn't watch him on his way out of the store, and he went into the break room and stuck his finger in every single donut they brought in for our break. So literally the only mild positive of getting up at 6 a.m. on Saturday was ruined. 20 years later and I still miss that donut. Yeah, I guess I never realized just how fragile food can be. Just one little finger is all it takes and now the donut is gone. A young guy down the street was constantly speeding through the neighborhood. He gets home from work at the same time every day and always rips it down the street to his driveway. I called the city and had a cop come out and do radar. He got a dangerous driving charge and stopped speeding around here. Or you could just do the Hal thing and build your own speed bump and then just hope that the cops don't find out. I lived in an apartment with a roommate. We had neighbors who would throw crazy parties pretty frequently, oftentimes during the week. One day my roommate, who had to be awake early, had enough and decided to piss on a metal pizza pan and stick it in the freezer. After a crazy party, he pulled the pan out and flipped it upside down, giving him a frozen disc of piss. He then slid that disc under the door where it would melt on their fully carpeted entryway. Woke up to them shouting at the people who crashed there about who pissed on the floor and what the F was wrong with them. I wish I could say they toned down their parties, but they didn't, and eventually got evicted. Man, I don't think I've ever heard of such a genius, elaborate plan that involved pissing on somebody's floor. I moved to America to be with this guy. Let's call him Dick. Dick happened to work at the same big box store as my friend Jay. And one day when I came to meet Jay from work, a coworker innocently said, "Are you looking for Dick? He's staying with his girlfriend." I say, "I'm his girlfriend." Now another thing you should know about Dick is he bought his toothbrushes wholesale and lived in the grungiest apartment ever. I cleaned every inch of that bathroom, toilet included, with each and every one of those remaining toothbrushes, documenting each step with photographs. Then I rinsed them in the toilet and put them back in the box. And I packed my stuff and left. 10 years later, when I'd calculate he was on the last brush, I sent him the pictures. You know, it takes a very interesting type of person to clean somebody's bathroom in a way to get revenge on them. I got reviewed at work by a manager I had never met before. I had done everything I was always told to do, and more, but he still marked me low. I know it's because they wanted to avoid giving me a raise, but at least say you don't want to or can't afford to. I'll at least respect your honesty. Anything else, and you can go screw yourself. Anyway, he told me that I didn't go the extra mile. I pointed out that I always do. His response? "Well, I never see you do it." I said, "Well, maybe if management didn't always hang out in the guest services and went around to the other floors, where I'm doing my job, you'd have seen me." That got him to yell at me and mark me poorly for attitude, but I don't care. Later on, he came up to me and asked if I could stay late. Given that I'd previously told him that I didn't have anything else to do the next day, he probably thought I'd say yes. I looked him in the eyes and said, "Sorry, but I don't see that you guys need my help." Okay, usually stories like this end in the person just quitting the job. My friend in high school was such a drama queen, but it worked out hilariously sometimes. He was cut off by a driver who had no brake lights, and it pissed him off so badly that he followed until a cop was behind, merged around the guy, and then brake checked him so the cop would see that he had no brake lights. The holler he let out when the cop pulled the other guy over is still one of the funniest moments of my life. Well, now there's some strategic driving. I had no idea some of the people in this thread were just going to be so devious. In elementary school, a kid decided to purposefully pee himself after the teacher told him he had to wait until after the test to use the restroom. I don't know if that counts though, because he ended up troubling himself a lot more than he did the teacher. You know, it actually takes some real dedication to just pee your pants on will. When I was 7, I was mad at my younger sister about something, so when she went to bed, I peed on her to get her in trouble for wetting the bed. Dang, this reminds me of when I was about 12 years old, and me and my younger brother and sister had to go out into the backyard and clean up all of the dog poop. I mean, this was in winter, so it was all snowy, but my sister didn't want to help, so I picked up a piece of the frozen dog poop, I walked inside and I set it on her pillow, and then later I hear everybody freaking out because the dog pooped on the pillow and the dog got in trouble for it. I went to a restaurant for brunch. Upon receiving my bill, I noticed a $3 charge for table linen. As I was leaving, I folded up the tablecloth. The waiter said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I paid for it. I'm taking it home." And I did. Oh well, for $3, I think you got away with a pretty good deal there. My sister smoked and hid it from my parents as a teen. She did something that pissed me off. I found and destroyed her cigarettes and then told her. She smacked me around, then I told my mom. She got in a bunch of trouble for beating me up, and my sister and I both knew why, but she obviously wouldn't be honest about it with my mother. She got grounded for a while, and my smug little self got as many knowledge glances at her as I was able. Sometimes revenge is just fun, isn't it? But hey, that's all of the stories for the week. I hope you guys all have a nice Christmas weekend. You know, I think that Christmas Eve being on a Friday and then Christmas Day on a Saturday is pretty much the best it could possibly go. I'm sure a lot of people hate it because they're like, I get fewer days off of work, but it does make the week flow pretty nicely. But anyway, next week will probably be my last week of doing this 5 days a week, at least for now. I'm just starting to get a little bit burnt out from uploading so much, and I'm really trying to think of ways that I can mix up the channel starting next year, but I don't know yet, so I'll see you Monday.